Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we have to continue this example 11.2. Already in the previous lecture we talked about the vessel and we talked about the exchanger, and today we have to study about the pump. So let us review the question and see what we have to study in terms of pump. So refer to the information given in the chapter 1. So in the chapter number 1 we have already talked about toluene hydrodealkylation process, and that process is given in figure 1.7, and there are some associated tables with that figure. Table 1.5 that can give you the flow rate information in that in this process, and table 1.7 it gives you the information about the equipments in terms of design and in terms of operational parameters. So using the information provided in the tables in this chapter, estimate the size of equipment and other operating parameters for the following equipment. So mainly we have to find out or estimate the size of the equipments, and we have to determine different operational parameters for these units. Okay, so today we will talk about some of the units. So number one unit that we have to consider here, this is P101, which is the pump in this figure 1.7. So if I take you back to the figure here, so this is the flow sheet of this toluene hydrodealkylation process, and mainly pump 101, we are talking about this pump, and today we will use some of the heuristics to estimate what is the power requirement in this pump. So let us solve this example P101. So let us go to P101, this one, and this P101, it is related with the table 11.9 here. So okay, so this one is the table 11.9. So let us see all of these rules one by one and see how we can actually use these heuristics to solve our system. So the rule number one here, power for pumping liquids in kilowatt, it is equal to 1.67 multiplied by flow rate in meter cube per minute multiplied by delta P, change in pressure, divided by rho, which is the efficiency, okay, epsilon, sorry. Now we can use this equation to estimate the value for the power required by the pump for pumping the fluid, and we are provided with this equation here, and where epsilon here it represents you the efficiency, and how we can actually calculate the efficiency. You can go back to the table 11.5, or we can directly use some typical values for the efficiency in this example. Okay, so in the rule number one, we can get the equation to estimate the power requirement, and then we have rule number 4 to 7, type of pump based on head. So in these 4 to 7 heuristics here, you would see different pumps. It could be centrifugal pumps, it could be axial pumps, it could be rotary pumps, or it could be reciprocating pumps. Okay, so in this example we are mainly talking about the reciprocating pumps. So it is also given in the table 1.7. You can see from there that we are having reciprocating pump in our system. Okay, from figure 1.5 and table 1.5 and 1.7 we have flow rate of stream 2. Okay, so if I take you back to the figure here, so if you're talking about this pump here, the conditions that we have, mainly we have to consider the inlet flow rate and the pressure, and we have to consider what is an outlet flow rate and the pressure. Okay, now for the outlet pressure and other parameters, the thing that is available to us, it is the flow rate of the stream number 2. So you can go back to table 1.5. Okay, from here, and from here you can see that table, you can see from here the flow rate of the stream into this one is tons per hour, so you can convert this one into the kg per hour. That will be equal to 13,300 kg per hour. And similarly the density for fluid, it is given into the table 1.7. You go down here, pump 101, and here you would see the density for the fluid, that is 870 kg per meter cube. Now we have to estimate the change in pressure. Now for the change in pressure, you would see the outlet pressure minus the inlet pressure. So the inlet pressure, it is given here, it is 1.7 1.2, and the outlet pressure, it is basically 27 from this analysis or the table that is provided to us. Okay, so here there is a mistake. This is basically the information on the table stream number 2. Okay, so basically this stream number 2, the outlet pressure is 25.8 bar. Okay, but realistically What you have to do, if some information is provided to you at the outlet of the pump here for this stream, then you have to use that information. Otherwise you have to use the information for the outlet pressure that is just close to this pressure. Okay, so here he has considered the stream number 2 for the outlet pressure, and 1.2 it is given in the table 1.7 for the inlet pressure. Now the delta P that you have calculated here, it comes out to be 24.6. And in terms of liquid, because we are using toluene here in this process, so we have to estimate what should be the head considering the density of this toluene. So you can use this equation that we studied into the fluid mechanics course. Head that is equal to delta P by rho g, or delta P that is equal to rho g h. From here we can actually calculate the value for the head, that is equal to 288 meters. Okay. Now, how you can estimate the volumetric flow rate for from this pump here? Simply, you have to use the equation for the volumetric flow rate. You are provided with the flow rate, the mass flow rate that is provided here, and then you can divide it with 60, so you can have the information in terms of minute, and then you are also provided with the information on the density. So you can use the equation for the volumetric flow rate to get the volumetric flow rate in terms of meter cube per minute. So that is equal to 0.255 meter cube per minute. Now we have to estimate the fluid pumping power. Now we have to go back to this equation 1.67. Flow rate we have estimated earlier, this 1.255. Delta P we have considered this one here, so that comes out to be 24.6 bar. So you can put the value here. So the fluid pumping power, it would be equal to 10.5 kilowatt. Now we have to consider that what should be the efficiency of this pump. So typical value, if you go back to table 1.7 here, okay, you would see this pump here, and here you can see the efficiency of this pump, that is 0.75. So you can multiply the fluid pumping power with 0.75 to get the shaft power. Okay, so we are basically using this value for the fluid pumping power, and you can divide it with the efficiency to get the shaft power. That comes out to be 14.0 kilowatt. Okay, now you can compare this value with the table 1.7. So here we have calculated the value for the shaft power to be 14.2. Okay, so now you can see that we have simply used the heuristic equation that is provided here to estimate the value for the pumping power requirement and the actual shaft power required by this pump. Okay, so this is the advantage of using this equation that we get from the heuristics. Okay, now let us solve the part D of the example 11.2, which is about the equipment C101. So let us see what we have in this is in C101. So if you go on the figure here, so C101, it is basically representing you this compressor here, and we have to estimate the work required by this compressor, and we will see that which heuristics we can consider for this compressor to actually find out the work or the power required by this compressor. Okay, from table 11.10 we use the following heuristics. So rule number 2. So the rule number 2 here, theoretical reversible adiabatic power, it can be written as, or it can be found out by mz1 rt1 p2 divided by p1 power alpha minus 1 divided by alpha. Now what is this m here? It represents you the molar flow rate. The z1, it represents you the compressibility. R is the gas constant, T1 is the inlet temperature, P2 is the outlet pressure, P1 is the inlet pressure, and alpha represents you here this equation A, which is equal to K minus 1 divided by K, and K itself, it is the ratio of the specific heat at constant pressure divided by specific heat at constant volume. So we have to use this equation to find out the theoretical reversible adiabatic power. Okay, now the second thing that we can consider from here, from table 1.7 we have flow rate 6770 kg per hour. So we can go back to table 1.7 here. Okay, okay, now in this table we can go to this C101 here. So the flow rate that is given here, it is 6770 kg per hour, which is given here. T1, it is 38 degrees centigrade, so you can see this one, inlet temperature, that is in the Kelvin, 311 Kelvin. Molecular weight, average molecular weight, so you can go to the outlet stream or the inlet stream of the compressor. You are provided with the component fractions, okay, or the flow rate. So you have to use the weight of each of the component, and you have to estimate the value for the average molecular weight by yourself. P1, which is the inlet pressure, 23.9, that is given here. Outlet pressure 25.5, that is also given here. So some of the data for this equation, we are already that data is already provided here. Okay, so we have to directly use this one. Now K, that is equal to 1.41. What is this K here? Now the value for this K, it should be equal to, if you go back to the rule number 4 here, okay, exit temperatures should not exceed 164 to 204 degrees centigrade for diatomic gases. Cp divided by Cv, that is equal to 1.4. So we can consider the value for the K equal to 1.4, because this Cp divided by Cv, it is equal to K. So K can be taken as 1.4, and then we can use this equation here. A, that is equal to K minus 1 divided by K, and you can get the value for A, that comes out to be 0.298, 0.2908. Okay, now we have to estimate what is the molar flow rate of the gases through the compressor. So we are provided with the mass flow rate, and in terms of per second, you can divide it with 3600, and you are provided with the you know what is the molecular weight of the gas, and then you can actually find out what is the molar flow rate of the gases through the compressor. Now we have to use this equation back here to estimate the value for this the reversible adiabatic work required by the professor by this compressor. So M, that is equal to 223, that we have calculated earlier, this one, okay, 233 in terms of moles per second. So you can have 223 here. Z represent you compressibility, so we can have one value here. R represent you the general gas constant. Okay, so T1, it is given here. P2, P1, it is also given. A, we have already calculated, so you can put all the values within this equation to estimate the value for the reversible adiabatic power. Okay, so from this equation we can actually find out the theoretical reversible adiabatic power, that comes out to be 37.7 kilowatt. Okay, using compressor efficiency to be 75%. So we have known that if you go back to 1.7 table again, here you can see that the efficiency for the compressor, it is 0.75. So we have to consider this efficiency 75%. So you can divide this value with 0.75 as we did earlier in the pump. Okay, so the actual power required by this compressor, it would be equal to 50.3 kilowatt. This checks with the shaft power requirement given in table 7. So here you can see that for this compressor, how much is the power required? 49.1, and we have calculated 50.3. So we can make the good comparison by simply using one equation from the heuristics to get the value for the power, which is very much closer to the actual power. Okay. Now let us solve the part E of this example 11.2, which is about the tower 101. So let us see what we have in this tower here. So in this example, in the toluene hydrodealkylation process, so T101 represent you this distillation column, and in this distillation column we have to estimate different types of things. For example, we have to estimate the reflux ratio, the minimum number of stages, and then we have to consider that what should be the pressure drop and such kind of things. Okay, so let us see what we have in this example and how we can use the heuristics to solve this example. Okay, so let us go to table 11.13, and here we can see some of the heuristics. Now here, rule number 5, optimum reflux is in the range of 1.2 to 1.4, 1.5 R minimum. Okay, so the minimum reflux, it should be 1.2 to 1.5 times of the R minimum. We are provided in this rule here. Economical optimum reflux ratio is in the range of 1.2 to 1.5 times of the minimum reflux ratio. Okay, so whatever reflux ratio that you get here, you have to multiply that one with the 1.2 or 1.5. Okay, now rule number 6, optimum number of stages approximately 2 times of the minimum number of stages. So first of all, you have to estimate the minimum number of stages. How you can calculate the minimum number of stages? Using this Fenski's Underwood equation. Okay, so in this equation, for the minimum number of stages, there should be the total reflux. Okay, so economical optimum number of theoretical stages is near twice the minimum number of stages. Okay, so n minimum is the minimum number of stages, and optimum number of stages, you have to multiply this one with the 2. Now minimum number of stages, it can be calculated by using this Fenski's Underwood equation. Now you have studied this equation in the course of stage wise distillation. Now here you know what is an X, what should be the alpha here. So I will not go into the details of this one, but you have to see the components in the streams, and then you have to calculate what should be the value for X and what should be the value for this alpha. Okay, now R minimum, it is equal to F by D, alpha minus 1. So this one is the feed, and D representing the distillate, divided by alpha, which is the relative volatility factor, alpha minus 1. And how you can calculate this one, you have to just go back and see CATU 356, which is about the stage-wise distillation course. Okay, use a safety factor of 10% on number of trays. So whatever number of trays you find, you have to keep like 10% more trays as a safety factor. Length maximum, it is given in the rule number 14. Okay, so then rule number 14, so the L by D ratio, it should be less than 30. Okay, so L max, it could be equal to 53. Okay, so you can see this rule number 14 here, and also rule number 9 and 8, all of these rules are given here. Okay, now from table 11.14, we can use the following heuristics. So let us see this one, table 11.14 here. So the heuristic number 2, f of s, it is equal to U, density for the vapor, power 0.5. It should be between 1.2 to 1.5 meter per second. Okay, or in terms of kg per meter cube, it could be you have to take the power 0.5. Okay, now this rule you can see here also. Peak efficiency of trays is at values of vapor factor s f of s, that is equal to velocity, density, power 0.5 in the range of 1.2 to 1.5 meter per second. These are the units, and these are also the units. This range of f of s, vapor factor, establishes the diameter of the tower. Roughly linear velocities are 0.6 meter per second at moderate pressure than 1.8 meter per second in the vacuum. Okay, so these are some of the heuristics. So we have to use this equation for the vapor factor to estimate the vapor factor and estimate the velocity or the density. Then the rule number 3, it states pressure drop per tray is on the order of 7.6 centimeter of water, or equal to 0.007 bar. Okay, so the delta P per tray, it will be equal to 0.007 bar. Rule number 4 says the efficiency of each of the tray, it should be between 60 to 90%. So rule number 4, tray efficiencies of distillation of light hydrocarbons and aqueous solutions are 60 to 90%. Okay, so we have to use this factor because we are dealing with the hydrocarbons. So we have to use this range of the percentage to estimate the tray efficiency. Okay. Now to get the value for X for the overhead, how you can do this thing calculation. So you have to consider the stream number 13 in this column, and then you have to see what is the benzene in this stream and what is the total flow rate of the stream. So stream number 13, you can take the ratio benzene 289 divided by 291. So you would get the value for the benzene in the overhead stream. And this x overhead, this is a mistake here, so it represents you x bottom here. So you have to consider what is the benzene concentration into the bottom stream. So in this stream, if you go back here in this one, so 11 number stream which is being recycled, it is representing you the bottom stream. Okay, so you have to take the composition of this stream, and you have to see that 1.1 is the benzene, and this one 35.7 is the total stream. So you can get the value for the x in the bottom. So you would be getting this value. Now alpha in the overhead and alpha in the bottom, you have to use you have to study this in the stage wise distillation course, and then there you can see that how you can use the Antoine equations to get the value for the vapor fraction, and then you can take the ratio of the vapor fraction of the light key and the heavy key. Okay, so the same way, you if you are considering the benzene in the overhead stream and benzene in the bottom stream, you have to calculate this volatility factor, relative volatility factor, and then you have to calculate this average volatility factor, which is equal to alpha overhead, alpha bottom, and then you have to take the under root or power 0.5, that comes out to be 2.28. Now n minimum, which is we just talked about this one, n minimum we have to calculate from this equation here. Okay, so here log value, and then you are provided with this x overhead, then this 1 minus x overhead divided by 0.0308, which is the bottom stream, minus divided by 1 minus bottom stream, again this one, and then divide by log 2.28 alpha, which we have calculated. Okay, so the minimum number of stages that you have to have in this column, it should be 10.9. Now we have to calculate what should be the minimum reflux. Okay, so to get the minimum reflux, we have to get the value for the feed stream and the distillate stream divided by alpha minus 1. Okay, so the feed stream, it is 142. This one basically represent you the stream number, maybe 10 number stream. Okay, so feed stream 142, 10 number stream, divided by the distillate stream, which is basically the stream number 15, which is representing you here the benzene. Okay, and divided by alpha 2.28 minus 1. So our minimum reflux ratio, it will be 1.05. Now the range of R we have stated here earlier, it should be 1.2 to 1.5 of the R minimum. So we have to multiply this one with 1.2 and 1.5. So the range for the reflux, it comes out to be 1.26 to 1.58. Okay. Now we have to estimate what is the theoretical number of stages, which is double than the minimum number of stages. So we have to just multiply 2 with the 10.9. So the total number of theoretical stages, it comes out to be 21.8. Efficiency of each of the tray, it is taken as 60%, as we stated here. The efficiency of each of the tray is 60%. So you can just divide this one 21.8. This is a mistake here. 21.8 divided by 0.6 is the efficiency, and 1.1, it is basically representing you the safety factor. Okay, so we have maybe stated somewhere here. Okay, so if you go back to this table 11.10, yes, 11.13. okay, so here you would see that there is a safety factor of 10% of number of trays calculated. Okay, so here you have to incorporate the safety factor also to estimate the actual number of stages. Okay, so by this equation you can have the value 40 number of trays for the actual number of trays. Okay, now density for the vapors, you have to see the density of each of the component in the mixture, and then you can use the average density for the vapor. Okay, you can calculate this one by yourself. Now velocity, it can be ranged from 1.2 to 1.5 divided by 6.1 power 0.5, and that comes out to be 0.49. So here we are using this equation here, f of s. Okay, so velocity we have calculated, density of vapor we have just calculated with the power 0.5, so it should be between 1.2 to 1.5. okay, so we have simply used the velocity here 1.2 to 1.5, divided by density for the vapor and power 0.5. So the value it will vary from 0.49 to 0.60 meter per second. Now vapor flow rate in the stream number 13 here, you can go back to the stream number 13, which is about which represent you this one, the vapor stream. Okay, so the vapor stream, the flow rate of this one is 22,700 kg per hour. Now you can estimate the value for the volumetric flow rate also from this equation, that comes out to be 1.03. How you can get this one? You are provided with the mass flow rate here, and you know what is the density of the fluid, so you can actually use the simple density equation to get the value for the volumetric flow rate. Now to estimate the value for this diameter of the tower, you have to simply use the equation for the mass flow rate or the volumetric flow rate, and then you have to rearrange that equation in the form of diameter. Okay, so how you can do this thing? Mass flow rate, it is equal to density times the volumetric flow rate, and then you can write down the volumetric flow rate in terms of velocity and the cross-sectional area, and then you can rearrange the equation in the form of diameter to get this equation. So after solving this equation, the value for the diameter, it would be between 1.64 to 1.48 meter. Okay, delta P, the pressure drop in the tower, it would be equal to number of actual trays that we have calculated here, multiplied by the drop in pressure in each of the tray, that is equal to 0.007. So it is from the heuristic here. Okay, so you can multiply this thing, and delta P in the tower, it would be equal to 0.28 bar. Now these are some of the things that we have calculated. So the value for this reflux ratio, we have calculated this one. Similarly, we have calculated the number of trays. Okay, similarly we have calculated the diameter of the column, and also we have calculated the range of the velocity. Now we have to compare these values with the actual table that we get from this flow sheet. So we have to compare the results with this table here. Okay, so this one is column, and this one is pump. Yes, this one is tower. Okay, T101. Now we can. Now from here, what we can see here, the tower diameter which is given here, if you go back to this one, T101, so the tower diameter, it is 1.5 actually, and from our heuristics we have calculated this one between 1.48 to 1.64, which is in good agreement here. Then the reflux ratio, now the actual reflux ratio, you have calculated this reflux ratio by using the simple ratio between the distillate and the overhead stream, that is L by D. So if I take back you here, so it is basically the ratio between the stream number 12 and the stream number 15 here, to estimate the value for the reflux ratio from this figure, that comes out to be 1.75, and in our example we have calculated this value between 1.26 to 1.58, that is given here. Okay, and then the third thing, number of trays 42. So you can see this one here in the figure, the number of trays that are mentioned here, it is 42, and we have calculated 40 number of trays. Drop in pressure 0.30, so you can take the stream number 13 pressure, which is maybe given in 2.5, and then you have to compare the pressure of this stream number 11, which is the bottom stream, and you can take the difference, that comes out to be 0.30 bar, and in our calculation we have calculated 0.28 bar from this heuristic. Okay, from this analysis, what we have seen, that all of these values in terms of diameter, reflux ratio, number of trays, and delta P, all of these values are very much closer to the actual values that we get from the simulations or by developing the actual process. So all of these values, they are good, they are in good agreement with this actual value, so we can use the heuristic information for designing of these columns in future also. Okay, now let us move to the last part of this example, which is 11.2, that represent you the heater here, H101 here. So H101, it represent you this fired heater, and the calculation for this fired heater, it is very simple. you have to go back to table 11.11. So if I take you to the table 11.11, okay, yes, this is a table 11.11, and here you would see the heuristic number, maybe rule number 13. Okay, so you can go down, and here you can see the rule number 13, which is about the fired heater. Okay, so in the fired heater, the radiant rate, it should be between 37.6 kilowatt per meter square. Convection rate, it is this one. Cold oil tube velocity, so this one is velocity of the oil in the tube. Approximately equal transfer in the two sections. Thermal efficiency is between 30 to 90% based on lower heating value. The flue gas temperature, it is 140 to 195 above feed inlet. Stack gas temperature is 345 to 510 degrees C. Okay, so this is too much information. What we have to use here, we have to simply use the first part of this heuristic here. So the equal heat transfer in radiant and convective sections. So the radiant heat transfer, it is 37.6 kilowatt per meter square, and the convective heat transfer, it will be 12.5 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, so this is the heuristic, and now we have to see that what is the actual duty in our example. Okay, so let us go to table 1.7 here. Okay, now in this table 1.7, you would see the heater. Okay, so yes, this one is the heater here. Type is fired, material of construction. Then the duty which is given here in megajoules per hour, that is 27,040. So you can convert this megajoules per hour into the kilowatt. Okay, that comes out to be 7,511 kilowatts. Okay, now this is the total duty, and we have to divide this duty into two parts, one for the radiant rate and the other one is the convective rate. Now for the area for the radiant section, 0.5, because we are considering half of the heat transfer by radiation and half of this one by the convection. So 0.5 multiplied by 7511, which is the radiant section. Then you have to divide it with the area that is usually we need to have for the radiant heat transfer rate. So we can divide with this heuristic here. So the area that we get here, it will be 99.9 meters square. Similarly, we have to calculate the area for the convective section. So the analysis is same, 0.5 multiplied by 7511, this one, divided by 12.5, which is given here. So the area for the convective section, it is 300.4 meters square. Okay, now you have to compare these two results of heuristics from the actual results that is in table here. So the radiant area, it is equal to 106.8. So in our heuristic we get 99, almost 100, and the convective area, it is 320, and we get around 300. So we can see that by using the simple equation for the heuristic, we can get close values for the areas that is required for this heater. Okay, so this is the last part that we have to solve in this chapter. Okay, and similarly you can use some of the other equipments, and you have to see the heuristics, and then you can actually find out the values from the heuristics and compare with the actual results and see that how much is the variation between the results. Okay, so if you have any question, please let me know. Thank you.